Hello folks. Okay, we're going to do a quick little video here. This is the big bougainvillea that I cut up about a month ago or so, and I was going to put an air layer on it, and in midstream I changed my mind because it was more expedient to just cut off the branches that I didn't need and work with the trunk. Well, as you can see, we've got a lot of grow back here. This branch right here is sprouted out and shot up pretty significantly, and we've got more shoots over here. I know it's a little difficult to see that through the green background of the little juniper bonsai there. And down here at the base, you see some color there, so we'll call it flowering. And what I've done here is put on an air layer here at the base. I scored the branch that's going out to the left there, and I built up a mound of soil around it, and then I covered it over with the plastic to secure it. And hopefully at the end of that there'll remain a stub that I can grow a shoot off of later on if I choose to have a low branch down in that area also. I like my options. And as you can see, I use soil on an air layer in the upper extremities of the plant itself, and of course that is also putting on lots of flowers, or at least some flowers. And you can see here that I've used a cut down gallon pot, got it secured with duct tape and a metal strap that's aluminum. And and I'm showing you this as a follow-up to show you how rapidly the bougainvillea responds after it is cut. And there are small back buttings on the trunk of this. You can't see it from this view, and I don't want to walk around too much, but at any rate, I put this on I guess you can say Memorial Day, well actually Easter weekend, and pretty soon this is going to have roots in it. It won't take very long at all, but it's June right now, okay, and I'm going to wait till August to take off any of the air layers that I've done in the last few weeks, you know, from Easter, Labor Day time frame till now. So August is my next round of removing air layers. And while I'm over here, I'm going to show you, I'm going to walk around here in a little bit, but you can see the juniper right there, juniper, the trident maple, and then the trident maple right there. And we're going to take a look at those for a reason. Okay, there's a reason I want to look at that. Okay, and the thing is, these were air layers, and they're air layers that I put on in the early spring. So it was about the end of March, early April. Ooh, yellow flies trying to get me. So I put these on in early April, end of March, somewhere in that time frame, and I put that on also at the same time. And as you see, the leaves are a little discolored and a little curled, a bit redder than the leaves that you might see on the tridents right near it. Okay, these are potted plants, but they're much greener. Okay, now what I've done here is to save time, okay, and this is my key, the reason in part that I'm doing this video. You take off your air layer, and then you can immediately air layer smaller branches off. That'll save you time, and of course it saves space. So you don't have to wait until the plant is well established and, you know, sitting around for 3 months, 6 months, or whatever, or the next season before you start working on it in some way. Okay, so these two air layers I put on just as quick as I got this potted up, and you can see the aluminum wire right there. I got it strapped down, and I even put a brick on it to secure it. Okay, so it doesn't take much. Okay, and you can do a lot with it. So here we got so here we have another one, and I didn't put an air layer on this one. It's relatively small, and when it comes to the fall, and for me, I start my fall cuttings in August. Okay, and I might start it in July, depending on what I've got going and what the weather feels like. If July is starting to cool off sooner than normal, I'll take hardwood cuttings. I strip off all of the foliage, and then I go ahead and do what I have to do. But again, to save you time, if you put on air layers, just as soon as, I mean, you could even, before you cut the air layer off of the original plant, you could go ahead and put your new air layers on and secure it very well. You can even wrap the whole thing in plastic afterward if you use containers like I do. But if you use sphagnum moss and some kind of a wrap, then it's a wrap. You've got it taken care of. Speaking of reproduction and cuttings and such, I've got like 3 pots here of bougainvillea cuttings, and these are substantial, up to 1 inch, okay, in thickness. And there's the other pot there. These I took off in late winter. Okay, well, actually I took these off in the fall. Okay, and then I did some overwinter protection to keep them viable. I took these off with smaller pieces also. The smaller pieces, I've already potted those up, and I checked these today, and they have substantial roots. I checked them at the time that it was around I believe Labor Day, Easter time. I was getting ready to repot them, but I didn't like the look of the roots, and but now I have roots coming out of the base of the pots, and again, just take my word for it. So tomorrow is Saturday, and I'll probably go ahead and start potting those up. Okay, back over here. Okay, well, I can give you another shot of that bougainvillea, so you can see that, see the shoots coming out, headed over this way. So we've got nice regrowth, nice flowering, and so we're doing well with that. Okay, and so let's go around here. And now this pot here, a black oil pan with the concrete rock on it and the red pot, this tree originally was an air layer, and I put it in the ground for like 3 or 4 years, something like that, just to let it grow and get it established. I dug this tree in the early part of spring, which is February, March time frame, I believe, is when I dug this. And just as soon as I dug it, got it into this pan, I put the air layer on it. Okay, and you can see the foliage. Okay, no harm, no foul. Okay, but I'm saving time. Okay, so if you have a substantial amount of roots on your air layer, and you have to check it to make sure that you've got a good root base, then you can do that. This pot right now has roots in it, and as a matter of fact, you can see right here where I've got the sphagnum moss, and I've got sphagnum moss right there on the top. and I put that on there to cover up the roots that were exposed at the time. And again, I'm not going to go ahead and pull that off of there. I was going to try to show it, but trying to manage this camera, I'm just not going to do it this time around. But there are roots in there, so this air layer is ready to come off. So tomorrow I will cut the can open and verify that I do actually have the roots that I think I have. Again, I see roots at the top coming across the surface of the soil away from the trunk, and then roots at the base. But there could be, you know, sporadic roots in there, because when I squeeze the can itself, or the plastic pot, it's not really chock-a-block full. The pot itself is not tight, and as if it were full of roots. So I'm somewhat skeptical, leery, or dubious about the mass of roots that's in that pot. Yes, I'm somewhat dubious. That's a nice word, isn't it? Dubious. I'm dubious. No, I don't do doobies. I do shooby dooby dooby doo all day. Okay, this was an air layer also that I took off with the one that I showed you a few minutes ago that had the air layer on it immediately. Okay, so this plant, you can see the coloration in it, okay, is much better than the plant that's around there. And that's, in a way, is purposeful, because when you take your air layer off, just like anything else, if you're taking cuttings, you know, making other rootings, if you're planting seeds, you have to have your product in the right place, the right amount of sun, the right amount of shade, the right amount of moisture, heat, okay, or coolness, depending on what you're doing. This I had in the shade, and I left it to soak longer than I left the others to soak. Those I soaked just overnight. This I left stand in the just a little bit of water at the base. The entire pot was not submerged, but I left it stand for about 3 or 4 days. Okay, so, and this was more in the shade. Plus, I transported this to the back where it would be safe and secure, out of the way. And again, mainly that had more shade than the plants that are over there. They had less shade. Okay, so it makes a difference on how you treat your plant and how they're going to respond after you do your work. And that goes for repotting your bonsai or your pre-bonsai, as well as dealing with air layers or large cuttings even. Okay, now this pot right here is a piece that I pulled out of the base of that big bougainvillea, and if you can see the white right there, roots, those are roots. And I looked around on the other side, and as a matter of fact, this is double potted, and those roots are extending out of the inner pot and into this other pot. Okay, and I've really been watering really well. I mean, as a matter of fact, this is in the front where I sit, listen to the radio, watch TV, especially when I'm not working, when I'm just taking it easy. So I come out here and I spray and spritz, and you know, just keep things a little primo, more so than stuff in the back, because I'm just sitting up here relaxing, and part of my relaxing is watering and looking at things and seeing how things go. Okay, now another statement I want to make here, so changing thoughts just a little bit. Air layers. Some people will put on their air layers February, March, or April, and then that's it. Well, I just put these on over the Labor Day weekend, okay, and Labor Day, Memorial Day, rather, Veterans Day, whatever the last holiday was. These days and times are running together. But anyway, I just put these on. I think it was 28th, 29th, and the 30th, and the 1st of June, okay? And right now, basically, there's like, in this area here, going that way, and then that way a little bit, there are more than 50 air layers. You can see the tree over there with air layers in it. So, there are more than 50 air layers. And so, I'm calling all of this June to start my count. 3 months, I'll be taking this off. June, July, and August. So sometime in August, around the 15th or later, I will be looking to remove these air layers. Now, so in my deal, I basically set up, in my mind, it's not all formal or anything like that, but I set up a system where I think in my mind that there are two crops of air layers, and they're 3 months apart, okay? Well, 3 months each. So I do the first one in the spring, again, February, March, or April, in that time frame, and then I count 3 months from there, and then I start looking to remove those air layers. And then I go to June, July, and August. Okay, so I will even put on air layers in August. Yes, air layers in August, because my season is long like that, and it works for me. But if I just happen to be busy or whatever, then basically I take the first month, February or March, I do as many air layers as I can, okay, and then 3 months later I'm looking to take those off. But at that same time, that 3 month period, a few weeks, after that, because it takes me time to process the air layers that I remove, then I'll just do as many as I can, and then I have just 2 seasons with 2 sets of air layers. Whereas if I do my full season, I'm doing 3 months consecutively putting on air layers, okay? And so for those first 3 months, I'm still counting 3 months after that, and then I start looking for roots. To show you something, this right here is a reset of an air layer. The top of it broke out during a windstorm, and you might be able to see that right there. So that was about 8-9 feet tall. That broke, so I put this on. Now this is the 2nd month that I ended up putting this on. There are roots in there, but they're not substantial enough to suit my purpose and my needs. Plus I've got enough to keep me busy anyway. This, I repotted this about 3 days ago. There are plenty of roots in here, but they're the fat white, what I call water roots, okay? The new roots that are going to be the heavy, thick anchor roots coming out. And so I had a small pot on there, like a 4-inch pot, and so I took a cut down gallon pot and just rewrapped the roots. I mean, there are plenty of roots there, but for the height of this, and I would say that's at least 10 feet tall, if not more, okay? So I decided to just go ahead and let the roots mature more and to develop en masse even more. So I just put that back, and I'm letting it ride. So here we go. You got me. Okay, you can do air layers especially if you got a long season. I'm in Northwest Florida, and this year, though it wasn't burning hot by April, which normally we've got a consistent 75 to 80 degrees. Okay, we hit 80 you know, a couple of times in April, but then it cooled off. The nighttime temperatures were in the 40s and 50s for days on end. There would be a little warm up and then right back to the 40s and 50s until, you know, pretty much May. Okay, and then nighttime temperatures were in the 70s and 60s. So that's a little cooler than we've had over the, you know, past few years. So I'm confident about doing things like transplanting, digging up small sets or trees, and so like that I'm not, you know, uncomfortable doing. And of course, come mid-June or so, some of these plants should be going to sleep or going into their summer dormancy. But if it stays cool, and here we've got the storm coming up out of the Gulf, we may not get that with the rain and the cooler temperatures. You know, so, you know, stripping plants and digging plants may not be on my agenda if I don't get the dormancy that I did expect. Now, one of the plants I was showing you that's discolored and are, you know, really reddish looking on the trident maple, I took it from this place right here. And right here I've got about a 2 to 2¼ inch trunk, and right now it's about 18 inches tall. And of course, when I dig this up this fall or next spring, you know, certain branches will be already cut, or I'll just take the cuttings in the fall to root them, and I'll go from there. But this will be dug up, either transplanted in a more open area for further growth in the ground, or it would automatically be put into a pot. And the way the top of this is, how thick it is, and I don't have any vertical shoots coming out, I may end up putting it back in the ground to let to try to and recut the top to get a new apex to develop. So anyway, like I said, to save your time on your bonsai and space, you can air layer just as soon as you either remove an air layer, or just prior to removing the air layer you can do another air layer, or just prior to digging a tree, you know, a tree that you know and understand the roots, you couldn't put the air layer on there unless you're going to totally wrap that and secure it, I mean super tight, because you'll be jostling the tree. Okay, so even if you've got a tree in the ground, you can dig it and then immediately put an air layer on it. Okay, so this, again, I did this one in about April time frame, late March, early April, and so this is the early spring, best time to do that. As a matter of fact, it was before the bark began to slip, so I had to work to get that bark off of there. So it was a little cooler than normal, and again, it was relatively early. So alrighty, and once again, save yourself some time, save some effort, air layer your air layer immediately, and that'll save you space, it'll save you time. And you can air layer your plants and take cuttings, and you'll be just fine. Alright, thanks and have a good day.